What is happening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this episode of The Drop. And I'm so stoked. We're doing a series on sobriety, on different angles of it, from people who've gotten sober to, if you saw last week's show, Pete Canita knocked it out of the park with the support that he is showing for his daughters and what he has done to overcome years of living with an addict. So make sure to continue to tune in. I think we're running these for like the next, 3 months or so. People just keep saying they want to come on the show. And when I put the post out, I put it out on social media a while ago. I had two people in mind when I put it out, and those two gentlemen are sitting next to me. They made a long trek to get up here to Birmingham, Michigan, to visit here in the Better Rate Mortgage Studios at Woodward Sports, the complex here. And I'm so thankful that we do the show from here. But, different people have different views of sobriety. The road is it's not cookie cutter. The way we find our way out of it is not cookie cutter. But you have to keep trying. You have to keep reaching out. Find that person that's going to tell you exactly what you need to hear at that moment to realize there is hope. There is a way out. And you two have, you are the greatest expressions of that, in my opinion. Jeff and I met, a couple years ago via social media. I know social media is often a terrible thing, the over inundating of whatever people want to hear affecting other people, but it is an awesome connection tool. And we connected through social media. You made the drive up. You were going to visit Riverside Park. I remember the day like it was yesterday. We met on a bench there, and it was like instant connection. And Jared started coming up with them, a year ago. I don't even know how long ago it was when you started coming up to Michigan.
It was a couple years ago. I think I met you the first time at Jimmy's Ramp.
Oh, yeah.
And I was not sober back then.
Well, we're going to get into that a little bit as we progress through this show. But these two gentlemen are incredible. Not only talented skateboarders, but just humans. They look out for the people around them. And without sobriety, we wouldn't be sitting here. We would not be sitting here. So I'm going to go back and forth a little bit between Jared and Jeff. I'm sure they're going to go back and forth a little bit. So just kick back, get your notebook out, take some notes. I'll remind you when there's that nugget of wisdom I want you to take home with you and enjoy our conversation. So I want to thank you guys for making the drive up on a Thursday of all days, and traffic gets a little dicey as you're coming over the border and getting into the Detroit city proper. But I want to start with how was it growing up for you guys? First, where'd you grow up, and how was the family dynamic? Brothers, sisters, like gnarly? Like, how was that for you, Jeff?
For me, I was the only child. I would have to say that my childhood was pretty rough and rugged. It really was. My mother was active in alcoholism and all of the things that come with that, and I didn't have a father. So I grew up kind of between my grandma, my uncle, my mother, just whoever, whenever. And, went to a whole bunch of different schools, I think 9 different schools by the time I was 15. And then we finally settled down when I was 15, right in Port Clinton. But I don't have any brothers. I don't have any sisters. Today I can look back on it, and it was just really all about me. I made my childhood all about me. Poor me, feel sorry for me. That's really what I did, because I could have done anything, and I just chose to try to be a victim as a child. Is really what it ended up being. I ended up trying to play the victim card my whole entire life. Like, oh, feel sorry for me, give me this, get me that, and almost hustle my grandmother and my uncles that were taking care of me, and my aunt, like, don't you feel sorry for me? And we would do some really fun things. And, I grew up somewhat in the Port Clinton area, which is, by Putin Bay and Lonz's on Middle Bass. And we would go to those islands quite a bit. And I would drink at a really early age because wine was acceptable when we're on the boat and we're on the island and being a kid. So.
An early age, are we talking 10 years old, 15 years old?
I would say, I mean, I drank long before that. I probably drank at 5. They would have all these parties, and I would steal their Little King's beers and end up passed out somewhere on the picnic table, underneath the picnic table, behind the couch, whatever. And they just like, oh, they thought it was hilarious. They thought it was funny, but yeah, it was really early age. I was drinking early, and I even smoked weed. I think at 7.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, Jared, how about you? How was your upbringing, man? Family dynamic?
I had a great childhood. I had a brother and a sister. I think my brother's 10 years older than me. My sister's probably 13 years older than me. So it was kind of basically like I was like the only child a little bit. Like, I'm not from Ohio originally. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, which is a gnarly town. So there was that growing up in the city. But I had a good childhood, man. Up until later in life, my brother got in trouble, and he was tried as an adult in Florida and went to prison for, I think, 5 years. So 5 years of my childhood, I was visiting him every weekend or every other weekend, always going to the Florida State Prison. So there was that, and just growing up in a gnarly city. I grew up right by Kona, so started skating at an early age, and there was that. I mean, alcohol was always present. My dad was in the Navy, so he has a twin brother. They always drank. My mom's side of the family always drank. I drank at an early age. I think the first time I smoked weed, I was probably 8 or 9.
Wow.
But I was a young kid in the neighborhood. All the other kids I'm 8 or 9, and they're all 13, 14 years old. So I didn't have any kids my age around. So there was that. But I had a great childhood. My mom and dad are still together. They still love each other. My family's really tight, and my sister's great. She has a great family. Like, I didn't have any bad things happen to me really within my family.
Mm-hmm.
I had a great childhood.
Now, school. I'm always interested in school because I was a different kind of kid in school. I was like the quiet, artsy kid, like punk rocker. There was 3 other skateboarders in our school. We were friends. We got picked on all the time. But, I got along good with my teachers. I did what I had to do so I could, at the time, play ice hockey. My parents would take ice hockey away from me if I wasn't upholding my end of the bargain. So I was actually a pretty good kid, BC student, nothing incredible. I had to try hard for the academic type stuff like, math and English and all that. But how was school, man? Challenging for you, Schill?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because it was tough because I was never in a school long enough to even get acclimated, to be honest with you.
Yeah, 9 different.
Yeah. 9 different schools. I definitely was that kid in school that parents would not let come over.
And why is that?
Because the reality of it is I had no structure and I had no discipline, and I could literally go and do whatever I want. I was the kid who never had to sneak out. I just walked out of the house. I have nobody there to discipline me. I had free reign, and I didn't do very well in school at all. I was, essentially, to be honest with you, 7th grade was the last grade that I successfully completed.
Okay.
So, but I was in juvenile detention so much that throughout that process and being an 18-year-old freshman, I did end up getting a general education diploma, which is a GED. I like to say it the fancy way. It's kind of like my little certificate.
I have to tell you that's huge though, because so many people don't go back and get that.
Mm-hmm.
I know quite a few people even tried a couple times and they just haven't gotten it, but it's important to them, and they're in their 40s, 50s, just to have it. So that's actually pretty huge that you took the initiative to get that, because it's a staple for a lot of things moving forward. Not everything, but certain paths in life, you have to have that. You have to have that. So Jared, school, how'd you do, man?
I did great in school. For real. I was like you. I was a quiet kid, art class all the time. And I went to a lot of different schools too when I was a kid because my dad was in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
I think I lived in Jacksonville for a while, but I went to 2 schools in Jacksonville too, and then we moved here. I think when we moved here is when I started doing really bad. Like,
How old were you when you moved up to Ohio?
I think I moved here in '98 or '99. I was 12, I think.
Okay.
That was when I met him, skating down the street, and I see him and my friend Cody and a couple other people skating, and I'm like, those are my people, so it was easy to make friends, but I hated Ohio, though. I did not want to live in Ohio.
It's a big difference from Florida to Ohio, for sure.
Yeah, way different. Like, in Ohio, I felt like I'm a minority. I'm one of the only white kids. And then I move here, and it's completely different.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in a class with 12 to 15 kids in it. I'm used to a huge class, and like I went to a K through 12 school in 6th grade too, so it was just huge in all ages, and then go to a little junior high in Port Clinton, and it was weird.
Like 300 people in the whole
Yeah.
school.
But I was already a daily, like I smoked weed daily when I was 12 already.
At
So,
12 years old.
Yeah. Like, that was the only thing about my family life. Is like, I had rules and stuff like that. They taught me all this stuff, but like I could drink and smoke weed and go out and do whatever as a teenager and younger. Like, it didn't bother them. They didn't really tell me not to. Like, I remember when me and Cody were 15, 16, they would let us go to Louisville, Kentucky, unsupervised, and go to the skate park and get a hotel and do whatever. I didn't have no rules like that, but I graduated high school. It's funny, too, because my principal's on the board at the sober house I live at, and he was my principal from 7th to 12th grade in Port Clinton.
How cool.
Yeah, it was weird. I walked in there. I've lived there twice, so when I moved in there the first time, I'm like, "What's up, dude?" And he's like, I figured I'd see you around at some point, because he knew how I was. Even as a kid, I was a drug user, and I was an alcoholic too in high school. So,
And that leads me right into the next our next phase of this show, and that's, you both experimented drugs, alcohol at a young age. At what age did it become a daily practice or a routine? Maybe every weekend, and then it went into 5 days a week. At what was that, during high school? Like what you said, you're an alcoholic during high school.
oh yeah.
When did that progress, or was it progressing nonstop leading up?
I mean, I smoked weed every day from 12 on up. Like, that was a daily thing, no matter what, that I did that. But like, I started drinking, and it would just be at like family parties or like weekends when I would stay the night at a friend's house. But I think 16, 17, I would drink every day.
Okay.
So
Hard liquor, beer. Not that it matters.
Both.
Yeah.
anything that I could get my hands on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was also using cocaine too, so there's that. And that was just like, I got hooked on drugs just to be able to drink more, for real. Like, I could drink more when I was doing coke and stuff like that. So
And you graduated. That's pretty incredible.
yeah, I got lucky.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. Jeff, was it just a natural progression as you started meeting like-minded individuals, hanging out, doing your thing?
I mean, that's really kind of what happened, was that, up until the age of 15, I had told myself that I wasn't going to become like some of my family members and, be a drinker or even smoke cigarettes or, and I swore up and down, and it was like a firm stance that I had, that I would not drink, I would not do drugs, and I would not smoke cigarettes and all that. I stood firm with that right up to 15. And that's kind of what happened, is we settled into Port Clinton finally, and we got an actual place to live. Because there literally was some times, Gerald, where I was homeless We were sleeping in a vehicle or in a tent or, you know, even in camping in my grandfather's cottage. You know, there was those times, and we finally settle in, and I kind of, like, I just took off because I was already like a fairly bad kid without drinking and using. And then as soon as I settled in, I really just honed into the group of people that were just like me, but they happened to drink and use. So we're starting off drinking that nasty stuff at 15 of like Mad Dog, you know, what is that?
Mad Dog 2020, man.
2020. What's the one? The fruit one.
Oh, I don't know. They had a bunch of different that were like wine or something.
Yeah, I mean, it just reminds me of heartburn right now, but you know, them things. And I think like the 40 ounces of Mickeys and lasers and
Wild Irish Rose.
no, that was later on in life.
Or what's the wine everybody drank? There was a wine too at that time.
Boone's Farm.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
See, I know that. Yeah.
Everybody.
Laser. I mean, because the 99-cent. You know, we're 15, 16 years old. And we didn't really have anybody get it, but you know, just give somebody $10 and they bring you back a couple 40s, and they happen to be the dollar ones because they're getting theirs. But
yeah,
no, you know, 15 was nonstop, man. As soon as we settled in, it was nonstop smoking, drinking, and I was really, really poor, and so I hustled. You know, I sold weed and cocaine and those kind of things just so I could get the shoes that I wanted and the shirts to wear. You know?
And what age did you start skateboarding?
Oh wow. 1989, so I think I was like around 9 or 10.
Okay, so you were skateboarding throughout this.
Yes, yeah. Where I lived at Gem Beach, there was a whole little group of us, and I was that guy acid dropping off of the paper dispensers back then those days. You know, like I was that guy getting us kicked out of every single place in our little ritzy community that we were staying in. You know, yeah, and that was my love, man. What I found out with that is that like skateboarding was my solution before I knew I needed a solution. So when times were tough at home, I would go skateboard.
Yeah.
When we would move to a different city, I could show up to about any skate spot and start making friends. You know what I mean?
Same.
I lived in Baltimore and Aberdeen, and that's how I made friends. We just show up to the local curb, and there'd be other guys there skating, and next thing you know, I have a new group of friends for a little while.
Right. At that time, even, you know, for me, coming up in the mid 80s is when early 80s when I started skateboarding. Even in the late 90s, if you saw somebody wearing a pair of Vans, or you saw somebody wearing, you know, that their shoes had an ollie hole on it, it was like instant brotherhood.
Yeah.
Like you knew they skated, you knew you had something in common, and bam, like you were instant friends no matter what city you went to. If they had a Black Flag shirt on and they had an ollie hole in their shoes, you knew you could get along with that person.
Yeah.
It's still sort of like that a little bit, but it's so widespread now, it's tough. It's been a blessing in my life, and obviously a blessing in yours as you continue. You know, I mean, freaking 9 schools. Like you can't even start to create connection there with any friends there. And drugs and alcohol could fill that void. Or, you know, if you're trying to make an impact on people, you show up at the party and you're the life of the party. Now you have more friends. You know, when it becomes a daily thing, when you are using every day, oftentimes it ends up becoming a legal thing as well. I was very fortunate because I would lock my door, shut off my phone, and drink by myself. I didn't leave the house very much when I was drinking. I did have one minor issue that I bumped a guy in my car, and luckily he didn't call the cops. I didn't get a DUI. And I paid for his car to get fixed, and he just said, "You seem like a guy who's down, you know, having a hard time. I feel like I gave you a break." I was very fortunate for that. Legal issues. Did they start, or were they exacerbated by your use? Because you said you were pretty much a hellion growing up, and you didn't really respond to rules very well because you never had to. Legal issues because of your addiction?
Look, are you looking at me?
Are you making fun of my lazy eye?
This show is not long enough for me to go into the details of my legal issues, but Yes, immediately. And, you know, we have that when I have the honor and privilege to tell my story in a recovery meeting. I am that guy that is drink trouble. So immediately at the age of 15, as soon as I picked up drinking, as soon as I picked up hustling, as soon as I picked up using things, I was immediately in. Sorry, my phone's ringing. I was immediately in consequences. I was immediately in juvenile detention facilities. You know, because the reality of it is nobody could control me. And that was the safest place for me. And when I look at it, it really was. You know, like I was that kid that I would get to the juvenile detention facility and they were like, "Oh, hey, Jeff's back. We're cool. We got a guy who does the laundry and can work in the kitchen." I swear to you, that's not a
Not
joke.
the greatest thing to be on a first name basis with the
Yeah.
local detention facility.
No, for real. And yeah, immediately, man. And you know, it progressed. You know, those were small things that happened in my life compared to legal consequences later on, man. You know, I have 3 DUIs. Well, 2 because I threw a lot of money at one and ended up getting a reckless op. But it's funny because that still counts as a DUI. You throw all this money at it, you get this lawyer, and then when they go to give you, when you get your next DUI, it's like, oh yeah, well you had this reckless op, but that still counts.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. So you know,
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, 3 DUIs, and you know, I'll tell you, I'm honest about it. And I'm not ashamed of it. I'm a multi-felon too, so you know, because all that stuff caught up, man. It all caught up.
And when you're chasing it and you're not thinking straight, you're going to do what you have to do to get to where you want to get to, regardless of the law.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jared, legal issues, man?
As a kid, no.
Good.
But I knew I was an adult when they tried me as one at 18 immediately.
Wow.
Because I used to hustle too. So I graduated high school. Would not stop partying after. It was like my graduation party on graduation day till
Lasted for the next
till
10
a year
years.
and a half ago, basically. So besides when I was locked up, I never used or drank homemade anything while I was locked up or anything at all. I could stay sober in a structured environment like that, and it wouldn't even bother me for real. But as soon as I would get out, boom, I'm off and running immediately.
Yeah, free will it's a gift and a blessing at the same time, you know?
Yeah.
When you were talking, Jeff, about your upbringing, you know, I have a few close friends of mine who were basically in institutions their whole life. They were in institutions from the time they were 5 until they were like 45, in and out of them. And they needed that structure. Because when they didn't have that structure, they didn't know how to operate because that's the way they operated their whole lives.
Yeah.
And so when they were out in the free world, they were just like, I don't even know how to act because I don't have these rules and whatnot. And that's a very difficult transition if that's all you know is though that kind of a structure. I'm glad you guys aren't in prison right now. I'm glad you're here to talk to our awesome drop-in audience about your experiences.
I was just in prison last Monday.
Yeah, but we're going to talk about some of that at the end of this show. You know, for me, not a lot of people saw me drunk. Like, because I said, I locked my door, shut off my phone, I disappear. Maybe 15 people on the planet have ever seen me inebriated because I was I was a recluse, which is horrible. You know, to sit and drink alone and only leave the house to go get more. Were there times along your path where the people close to you were like, dude, you might have a problem? You know, you might want to get some help. Was there anything like that where people maybe that you actually respected were trying to say, you know, before you totally shit can your life, you might want to give it some thought?
I've had drug dealers tell me I need to calm down.
Really?
Yeah. Like, hey.
Wow, the pot
Bro.
calling the kettle black.
Yeah, like, bro, you need to calm down, dude. But no, I mean, yeah, at a young age, probably 16, 17, I was getting told by my family, like, hey, like, they would tell me, you're going to end up just like your brother, dude. And 18 comes and boom, felonies and
How I
Ended up
wanted to
being
ask
just like him throughout it all, you know.
how long did you spend in the joint?
I think I did. I didn't go to the joint. I got put in the maximum security county.
Okay.
Yeah, I never went to the joint.
Oh, good.
Never.
Good.
I've just done a lot of time in jail and on probation.
Yeah, again, from my experiences, I've seen good people go in there and come out just totally different than, there's not too much good comes out of our prison systems here in the United States. Jeff, just for my personal, and they're probably wondering, how much time do you do?
A lot. I mean, my juvenile, really from 16 to 18 was pretty much all DYS and juvenile prison. And I think that's what DYS. I was getting ready to go to a juvenile prison until I was 18 when I finally told them that, hey, I think I have a drug and alcohol problem. And then they sent me to a treatment center when I was 17 and a half almost. So I was just turning 17. I got out of there about 17 and a half. And then, that's like your question that you asked him about when were people telling me. And it was right around 16. They're like, hey, Jeff, you're going down the same path as those people you don't want to go down, and you're going to turn out exactly like them from what I was doing.
It's funny because
we'll
use
right
it as
too.
an excuse.
Yeah.
For in the criminal justice system, we'll use it as an excuse to get out of stuff. Like, I was facing like 4 years, I think, and I'm like, oh, I'm a drug addict.
Yeah.
I don't need to go there. I'm a drug addict.
Right. We call it the easier, softer way.
Yeah.
It really, treatment is the easier, softer way than doing hard time. And we it sounds like he knew it. I know I knew it. Because that's one thing I was good at was manipulation and hustling, man, to get what I want. And that was definitely one of them. I'm like, I ended up going to a 6-month rehab in Mansfield, Ohio, right down from the prison, to be honest with you. And it's where some of them would transition to go when they got out. They would be in that same facility. But that's where I was really introduced to recovery, was at 16. It didn't take any by any means, but that's where I was introduced.
Well, and this will be a little bit of a two-part question. Now, in and out of recovery, till you decided I'm going to do whatever I have to do to stay sober, or was it one and done? Like, were you in and out of, Jeff, I'll ask you first. For me, 3 rehabs, insane asylum, and people often ask me, they're like, what was it that made you get sober? And I don't have an answer. I don't. It was, I walked in a bathroom on February 2nd, 2017. I looked in the mirror and I go, if we're gonna be done with this, let's get busy. Let's because I was drinking myself to death. Yeah. And I'm like, let's do it now. And if we're not gonna do it right now, let's dig ourselves out of this. And I never drank again, and I would do whatever they told me. I always tell people, if the people around me told me you have to crawl on glass to Antarctica to stay sober, I would have got on my knees and started crawling on glass to Antarctica, because I believed them and I trusted what they were telling me. For you guys, what was that journey like to that day? Was it a legal thing? Was it a relationship thing? Was it something inside of you? And you may not be able to answer the question, but I get that question a lot of times, and I don't know what the answer is. It was that moment of clarity, divine intervention, whatever you want to call it.
There it is.
Whatever you want to call it, it happened on that day, and I never looked back. We're 5.5 years later. August 2nd for me was 5.5 years.
Boom.
And I don't know what to tell people when they, rehab didn't do it. Taught me a lot of cool stuff and some ways to cope with it. But within 2 weeks of leaving there, I was back at the liquor store.
We call it the gift of desperation.
That's right.
The gift of desperation. You care to expound on that a little bit?
I'm an in and outer. I have been since 2017, I think. I got indicted. And I was going to say this too. I can stay sober while I'm on papers and bond. I can. Like, I don't know why, but I will. We always say it's like, I'm a dumb criminal, but I'm not stupid though. I'm not dumb. I'm not gonna fuck it all the way up for me. I have before, but I was in and out. Like, I got in. It's funny because I seen what Jeff and them were doing, and I was like, well, they're not in jail. I'm gonna go do what they're doing and try and get out of this. And it doesn't work, you know. And the gift of desperation is when you just, God gave it to me. It's I asked for God's help, and He gave me that gift of desperation. It's the gift of I'll fucking do anything to fucking stay sober because I do not know how to. Like, I'll do anything that you guys want me to do, you know. And before, I was not willing to do that at all. I would keep things like, and it's like a hole inside you that you're trying to fill with other things once you get sober, and like, you don't know how to, you don't want to help people, you don't want to do all this stuff that we do, and you start trying to fill it with other things like work and money or women or new things, cars, license. I need a house. I need to have all this stuff to make me feel better. And then when you do all that and it don't make you feel better, and you're like, fuck, what do I do? And then it's usually something bad happens to you. Like, the relationship you're in will end, a family member dies, just you're on probation and it's not going the way you want it to. You can't control anything, and you end up, or like, what's your next solution? Alcohol or drugs. And then bam, you start doing it again. That's how it's always been for me. And I use and drink to the point that I die. And it's happened multiple times. And every time before it would happen, I wake up in an ambulance or a hospital or jail, and nothing would change. And just the one day I was like, God, please help me. I cannot do this anymore. I'm tired of living this way.
Right.
And then 5 minutes later, I'm dead in my mom's bathroom. And then she gets the door open, calls the squad. Today, a good friend of mine, he's a good friend of mine today, with the task force and everything in Ottawa County, they, come and bust in, Narcan me, save my life, and I wake up in an ambulance, and I'm different, and I'm like, I haven't wanted to use ever since then. I did things different as soon as I get out of the hospital. I pick up the phone. I called him, actually. Call him, ask him for help, call a program like, what do you call it? Outpatient program. Call them, call counselors. What do you want me to do? We want you to get on Vivitrol. Okay, I'll do it, Go get that stuff. I'll do whatever y'all want me to do,
Yeah, mortality will do that,
Yeah.
Not always, I was in a not quite that situation, but my mom had to take me to the hospital, and I had 40% vodka in my blood, and the lady was like, the nurse, like, the only reason you're not in a coma or dead right now is because you're in such good shape. She's like, I can't believe you're not in a coma right now. And that wasn't enough. I still had to go out and test the water some more after that. That didn't do it for me.
Yeah, both of us did a bunch of times.
But, you just never know what and you're very fortunate to cheat death as many times as you have to be here speaking with us. So thank you for making that decision, because we lose 110,000 last year to overdose. That was the number I saw recently, and testing that roulette wheel every day of your life, eventually it's going to catch up with you, and it's gonna make you not have that opportunity anymore. Jeff?
Oh, I love to talk about the God's gift of desperation, man.
Yeah.
Because listen, I am that guy that gets in trouble, goes to jail. I get to jail, and I'm like,
Foxhole prayers.
yeah, I'm like, I'm never gonna use again. I'm never gonna drink again. God, if you get me out of here, I swear I won't. Right?
Yep,
And
every
that's
time.
foxhole prayer, man.
Yep. Yeah, I'm the same way, dude.
I swear I won't. I swear I
Hit
won't.
the door running.
As soon as I get fresh air, I get a cigarette, I get a beer, I get what I want. Boom. Every single time, without a doubt. You know, my sobriety date is October 16th of 2015. And it took a lot for me to get to that point, man. I overdosed. I started using opioids in 2007 after a horrible car wreck that I should have died from there. I was in a coma. I had brain issues. I had a lot of broken bones, a lot of everything.
You have brain issues?
Yeah. Weird. and then that started me on that next level for me, because I always drank. Drinking was consistent. And I never thought drinking was the problem. I get to the opiates, and all of a sudden, 2007, we talk about it in the program. It's like when liquor met the sedative, I had arrived. And that's what it was. I had arrived, I mean, that was like the best feeling I had ever felt, and I wanted to duplicate that the rest of my life, no matter what. And that led me down a really slippery slope, man, because I'm getting pain meds and I'm getting them managed through the doctors, and then all of a sudden I get cut off of those, and it's because I can't pass one of their urine screens. And I was in legit pain, and yet again playing the victim again, right? Weird. Always the victim, and so they kicked me off of those things, and I started to feel really not good. Like, that was my first experience with being opiate sick, was probably about 2008. 2000, yeah, right, almost into 2009.
That's funny, because I was probably around the same time.
Yeah, and
why am I sick?
I'm like, why is everything so achy and hurt? Yeah. I don't understand, It's because I graduated from prescribed pills into the heroin, and back then it was actually heroin. It wasn't what it's killing everybody today, which was still killing people then. But so that led me into 8 overdoses. Okay,
that's it.
Yeah, only
I'm
8.
Being sarcastic. What the hell?
8 rookie numbers.
Yeah, 8 overdoses. 6 of those involved Narcan. Thank God for Narcan. But each and every one of those times before that, the very last one, God willing, I would just go right back at it. Like, it was just like you were talking about with your story with going to the hospital, and same thing. I would get out of the hospital, I'd go home, I'd repeat the process over and over again.
Go home, be like, that shit was fire.
Yeah, I'm just going to do less.
Yeah.
Right? And
I'll do half of that.
Yeah. So I'll run it right up to it, man. I was in jail for a long period of time. Again, that's weird, right? And I get out of jail early because I was on a work program trying to help mow lawns and do all these things. And they let me out like 16 days early. So it was July of 2015. And I get out. I already had something at the house. I was already drunk, okay? As soon as I got released from jail that Friday, I went right to the store and I picked up Long Island iced teas, 2 of those little premixers that are like 12.5 or whatever they are, hammered them. And then for good luck, I grabbed one of them little stupid 151 shots that they have by the front of the cash register. Every time you walk up there, you're like, yeah, all right. So I hammer these things. I go home and I do some heroin, and I overdosed.
Straight out of jail.
Straight out of jail. So it was out of the gate by 8, into the spoon by noon, and on the floor by 4. That's the joke, but it's horrible. So that was a Friday night, and then Sunday night I overdosed again. This time, my girlfriend was home, my child was present. Okay, and this happened in my dining room, where I almost knocked myself out because I almost hit the table when I fell. Okay. This is when God stepped in, 100% without a doubt. If you don't believe in God, cool. But I'm going to tell you, it is absolutely real. Because when I woke up from that overdose in that hospital that night, I looked up and I seen like these same halogen lights that I knew exactly what time that was. I knew exactly what happened. I knew why I was laying in that hospital that time. And for the first time in my life, first time ever, I said, oh God, I need help, man. Oh my God. And I had felt the most remorse, guilt, shame, and fear I have ever felt in my life. Because previous to that point, I would never feel those feelings.
Yeah, me
I
neither.
would drown those feelings out. No, at all costs, no matter what, I would not feel those feelings. And this time I did. And I soaked in them. And I cried like a little baby. And I reached out for help. I called that probably the same person he did, was my IOP teacher, because I was an IOP for like 6 years because,
Yeah.
because I couldn't pass a urine screen.
We're IOP champions.
Yeah, we're IOP champs, right? So I finally called this guy, and this guy says to me, he's like, Jeff, I've been waiting for you to say this. How can I help you? And this is where this building of faith comes from me, because immediately God started working through people. Okay, I'm getting a shot of Vivitrol. I'm getting on naloxone within 2 weeks, where normally it's a month and a half out to even see the doctor to get it prescribed to you.
And for our viewers, what is Vivitrol?
Vivitrol is a high concentrate dose of naloxone, but it's a time release.
Opiate blocker.
It's an opiate blocker. It blocks the receptors in your brain.
Okay.
It's originally for alcohol.
It's for alcohol. So you won't feel the effects of the opioid or alcohol.
So you just drink and drug as much as you want, and you ain't gonna.
You'll
feel
die.
it.
Your body will,
Yeah,
but
you'll
you
die.
aren't going to
You'll
feel
get
any euphoria.
sick and you'll feel miserable,
Yeah.
but it ain't gonna give you what you're looking
It
for.
is not. Yeah.
And for also IOPs, intensive outpatient, just so you guys know.
Yeah. And they're helpful. I mean, I'll be honest with you, they're not the solution, but they're helpful.
Yeah.
Because we say, rehab and treatment are discovery. We get to discover some things about ourselves. We get to discover some things about the disease of addiction and alcoholism. We get a lot of discovery. But recovery is the personal growth that we get outside of ourselves, that we get from people, that we get from meetings, 12-step meetings, recovery meeting, any kind of thing that's going to help build us in the spiritual realm. And it doesn't have to be, it isn't church for me. It isn't, those aren't the things that work for me. It's a spiritual nature of my understanding is what I'm working with. You know what I mean? Like something out there has given me this chance and opportunity that day, on that Sunday of July 28th, gave me a gift that day, and I recognize it. And I sat and watched how it all unfolded in front of me. And keep in mind, people, I did not stay sober. Just so you know, I didn't stay sober. It took some more time, because it happened in July of 2015. I finally got sober in October of 2015, because it took me some bumps, and it took me some figuring out. And it took me, the reality is what it is. It took me that unconditional surrender that it takes to say that I'm not going to do this anymore, and I'm willing to do what it takes to not have this happen again. Right. And before that, I wasn't ready. I wanted to control recovery in my way. I wanted to recover how I wanted to recover. And what happened? I got drunk a lot. Because as I'm coming off of those opiates and all the other substances, I stopped all the other substances on July 28th of 2015. Okay? But I didn't.
Drink on Vivitrol.
I did drink on Vivitrol. It's horrible. Don't ever do it, people. I could not control or understand the amount of feelings that were rushing into me. I'm talking, if you've ever been hit with a skateboard, that's what it felt like, right in the head, with all those feelings that were being sent to me.
Same for me.
From a young age, both you
Masked
guys
them.
could numb those things. So it may have been the first time in your life that you've ever actually felt those feelings, those raw feelings, and they're real raw.
Ooh.
They are raw.
I got out the hospital, called him. He came over to my mom and dad's house. I cried in the kitchen with him. And that is fucking foreign to me. I'm not going to cry in front of some fucking dude. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And show that emotion, but I mean, it happened,
Well, and as we continue our 1 day at a time, our 1 minute at a time, sometimes 1 second at a time on certain days, one of the most important important things from any program, if it's, a 12-step program, if it's whatever you're using, it's the connection. It's the commonality you have with others that can share what you have been through and then helping others. I think, the big book, I believe that's the most important part of AA is that community and one alcoholic helping another, one addict helping another. Now, you do some pretty cool stuff down in Ohio. Over the last few years, you brought up people with you in our skateboard community who are new to sobriety, maybe new to the area, and we have a pretty cool group. And it's rad for those of you watching. It's not like the sober guys are over here and the partiers are over here. That isn't what it's like at all. No. There's a mutual respect for everybody. And yeah, we talk about sobriety, make wisecracks, but we're out there riding our skateboards, and there's this connection, this camaraderie that's so special, and it could happen anywhere. It could be on a softball field, in an ice rink. It could be anywhere. For us, it's skateboarding, and I think it's very special because we get to do this as long as we want, to the grave, man. I think I always say that, but you bring up different people here and there. Some are in and out, some local. I get phone calls, and they know about our crew, and they'll be like, I got a young kid who's trying to stay sober. Can he come and hang out with you guys? That work is just as important. And you do some cool stuff down in Ohio with Lighthouse. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I definitely can. I do want to hit on what you were just talking about just a little bit. And the reason why I bring up other kids that skate that are new to recovery, and
it's because fun. Sober.
Yeah. I just want to show that these people that, look, man, we can have so much fun not drinking and not using. And if you look around, you'll start to see that this guy's sober, that guy's sober, this guy's, there's a lot of us, we're quiet. We're pretty anonymous sometimes, but we're not when we're all together. Right. You know what I mean? So, and that's the beauty of it, man. It's like just the same as when I would want to go find the substances I was looking for. I knew who to look for. Now in recovery, the same thing. Is I know who to look for, who's got some good recovery, is having a good time and having a blast. And that's been, honestly, people, one of the coolest things about Gerald. When I met him, I seen him on that social media. He was on a friend of mine's social media. I'm like, that dude skates. He's in Detroit. I even wrote on the thing. It was like a live thing for, I think, Riverside Park or something. Yeah. And I'm like, I wrote on. I'm like, hey, I skate. I'm in Ohio. I'm in recovery too. And that's what started it, really, And we connected since then. But even being with you, coming up here to Michigan, that's why we come up here all the time. Like, I feel safe. I feel love. I feel the awesome vibes every time I come to the city of Detroit and its surrounding areas.
Yes.
Like, we skate Cleveland all the time in all those areas, and we come to find out there's a lot of people in the scene over there too.
Yeah.
I ran into Becker last week.
Boom, that guy.
Becker's
awesome.
Amazing.
There's a gentleman named I'll just call him by his last name, Becker. But I met him when I was still deep in it, man. I was playing drums in Stalefish. We played with one of his bands, and it's just been rad. My second year anniversary of being sober, I skated a vert ramp with Becker, and it's the first invert I did on like a big ramp in 3-4 years, and Becker came up to celebrate with me. It's such a rad dude, but you're exactly right. Once, we're not broadcasting, like carrying signs and stuff. I wore shirts and whatnot, but when somebody recognizes it, some of the most successful people I have run into in the last 5.5 years, new people, new friends, different people I didn't even know I've been friends with for 20 years, and they'll like quietly be like, yeah, I got 16 years. Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah, that just happened.
Yeah, that's
no
crazy,
idea.
Dude.
And there's this special connection that happens there because they've been through the same hell or similar hell as I have. And I have a postcard on my fridge that says, I'm a veteran of a war that most would never understand. And I mailed it to myself.
Yeah, you showed that to me.
Yeah, I mailed it to myself. Actually, a friend of mine mailed it to me 2 months after I wrote it. and I got it in the mail. I'm like, man, that looks like my writing. I already forgot I sent it to myself. Oh, yeah. Just a reminder early on in sobriety, to 2 months. If it was coming in 2 months, I may not know it. I may be back off to the races. I don't know, but I wasn't at that time. In our community, it's interesting because most people don't wear sobriety like a badge.
We're very lucky. We're very lucky to have that.
Yeah. And when
I needed it big time when I got sober last year. Like, because I don't relate. I mean, I relate in the program with people in the drinking and using aspect, but to be honest, there's not a lot of people like me where I'm at. So like having Jeff, and then I get sober and we come up to Detroit, go to Cleveland, go down to Columbus, and do what I love too, and I get to do it sober. Like, I absolutely needed that, dude.
Well, and it's so rad, to see even other guys like, Jason Adams, legendary professional skateboarder for the Black Label. It was in the last few months that he finally reached out and got some help. And I've been friends with Jay for about 10, 15 years. And I was so stoked. I didn't want to see that guy die, and
we were supposed to meet him that one night at Modern.
Yeah, he didn't come because
he got drunk.
Yeah, like I asked him at 2 o'clock that afternoon. They were up here for an art show. I asked him 2 o'clock that afternoon, and he was already in the cans. And I'm like, "You gonna roll around with us tonight?" He's like, "Man, gee, I'm already in it. I ain't skating nothing." And it was 6 months later, I see them doing a fundraiser for Jason Adams going to rehab, and I'm stoked for him.
I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah, there's a bunch of skaters that are our age that are maybe nationally, internationally known who are being public about it. And I'm stoked on that. Sluggo out of Canada. You'll see some good posts when it comes up to his sober date. I had no idea. Nobody did. Dude's a Hollywood stuntman, professional skateboarder, celebrating sobriety. And I'm glad that, well, I'll say, one of the reasons I wanted to do this series of shows is so maybe somebody watching who has this stigma of, if you say the word alcoholic or addict, they immediately have this image in their head of what that is. And we're here to tell you that if you have a negative image of that, I want to combat that. I want to let you know, pretty successful dude. This dude owns a business down in Port Clinton where he's tearing it up. Fixing boats, doing this, doing that, also incorporating some people in the community to work with you, which I think is incredible. For me, somebody who is sober, has a little bit of sober time under their belt, I would hire them in a minute because they have a drive and a passion for life that you don't find everywhere. The other thing I wanted to hit on is that addictive personality. I've always had it. I've been fortunate to put it into positive things most of my life. To shift that to skateboarding, building a business, building networks, helping other people, that drive that we had chasing can be transmuted into so many other positive things. And that's what I believe we're all exercising right now. With your business, did you have that before you went in the joint, or did you start that ex post facto?
I've been in the marine industry this is my 28th year, and I tried a business back in 2006, but that ultimately led to me drinking all day at my job. And that's when that car accident happened. But this is the newer version of it, with me being sober, working a program, working the 12 steps into my life, using those 12 steps not only to stay sober, but as to treat people, which is the cool thing about those steps. And, I started a company after working for another one, and they just weren't treating me too well. And they were kind of, I think, somewhat dangling my past over me a little bit. Like, hey, we gave you a chance. We gave you an opportunity. You owe us. And I struggled with that because I was really grateful that they did let me in. I was on drug court and probation for the felonies that I caught, and they were through me. But I talked to my sponsor, and I talked to another person that worked there, and he's like, how much do you really owe them? You've been here 3.5 years, and you've made this company a ton of money, which is none of my business, because when you own a company, that's what we're there for. We're workers, right? And I was already picking up clients. And oddly enough, people, my clients were in the program and sober with big money and big boats. And I didn't know these things until I went to like you talked about, the fellowship of the recovery community. And then the next thing you know, they're pushing me in a different direction. They're like, hey, man, you're really good at what you do. You should just do this for yourself and not worry about that guy. And it was nerve-wracking, but I had faith that it would work out. And so I made a boat detailing and fiberglass company. We call it HIP Detail, HIP.
Why HIP? I know the answer. I'm doing this for you.
Yeah. It stands for honesty, integrity, and purpose. If I live my life each day like that, like I try to do to the best of my ability, and I do business like that to the best of my ability, all will be fine. I have faith in that 100%.
And the long sleeve shirts are, like, I love mine. Like, when I want to feel powerful, it'll be like midnight. And I'm like, I need some extra boost. I'll put on that long sleeve shirt.
Yeah, everybody's got one but me.
Oh.
You know, it says, you know, honesty, integrity, and purpose on the shirt. It just makes you feel good. And I know who it represents and what it represents, and it's important to me. With you, Jared, man, I watch you on a skateboard, dude. And you're an incredible skateboarder. And you have fun, and you do it for you, which I think it's awesome. And to see and I don't want to say it's not maturity, but just to see your confidence. And I've seen it.
I'm a lot better when I'm sober.
Well, in the short time that we've known each other, your confidence, it's like almost monthly. Just the way even when you were injured, this dude, so we go snowboarding, right? And and he's sober. He's sober. And we go snowboarding, and biggest jump on the hill. I'm not a snowboarder. I can carve, cruise. I don't even hit jumps. I just have a good time. There's a whole crew out there, and it's the biggest jump. And Jared's at the top, and I can see him, and he's like, I'm not up there privy to the conversation, but he comes down the hill.
I was like, I got this.
And he catches an edge. And we're just out for a casual afternoon. He catches an edge right at the top of the jump. I think he's trying to do some, like, rodeo John Cardiel kind of stuff. No. Catches an edge. Next thing you know, he's down. I'm filming, and he ain't getting up. He's hurt. Well, collarbone. But even during that, you'd still come, hang out. Like, even though you couldn't skate, you'd come to the park and chill and cheer everybody on.
Yeah, I got to stoke everybody up, man.
Yeah, that's so important where maybe,
And I love it.
A handful of years ago, you get hurt, you'd be like, I ain't going this week, Jeff, and who knows what could have happened at that point if you weren't strong.
If I wasn't hurt, I'd be like, I'm not going this week, Jeff.
Even
Sometimes.
if you're, being strong in your sobriety, though, man, it's so rad to be around it.
It's crazy how much I've changed since I got sober. Because when I was using back then, like when I first met you and Greg and Mark and everybody, and he's like telling me about other people too. He's like, oh, so-and-so sober and shit. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't care what you guys are doing. And then I'm like, I got to go. I'm going to go to the bathroom real quick. Stuff like that. Like, and then I'm so delusional that I'm like, oh, I'm still that backsmith looked good. And then I'll watch videos of me when I was like completely fucked up, and I'm like, and then I'll watch a video of me sober, and I'm like, he was right. I am way better when I'm sober. Like,
yeah.
Man.
Yeah. Well, I'm just stoked you guys are alive. Stoked you're my friends. Stoked we get to skate, and we get to inspire and possibly, reach one person. That's all I hope. This show reaches one person, and you realize through what Jared and Jeff have shared with us today that there is hope. There's always hope. There's a way out. We're going to have to do like a series of shows with these two guys because I know there is more. There is more that we're going to cover, and I'm sure it's going to come down the road. But in, closing out this short hour, it goes quick. We've already been sitting here an hour. Is there anything you would like to share with, if somebody's watching and, we've covered a lot here in this hour. We covered a ton. And in closing, anything else you guys would like to share with our awesome drop-in audience?
Like for people that want to get sober? Or?
Yeah, yeah.
I know for me, one of my biggest fears about getting sober was this is going to be fucking lame. There ain't going to be nothing to do. I'm just going to sit at home and watch TV. I'm not going to have any fun. I'm not going to have any friends anymore because all my friends do what I do, which is heroin and cocaine and drink. So I'm like, and I'm weird because I don't want to get to know new people. So I'm like, this is going to be lame. And I would talk myself right out of it. And it's completely untrue, man. I've had the most fun I've ever had in my life in the past 17 months, man. And it is great, man. Like if you open your eyes to it, you'll see it. You know, you'll see how fun it is, how great it is, how many great people you can meet in your life, and it's awesome. That's all I got to say.
I'm just, as you're talking, I'm thinking about all the stuff we've done, you know,
Yeah, we've
parties
done a lot,
and
man.
the cool people we've got to skate with and the opportunities. You know, there's been times where, you know, I don't remember which event it was. It might have been the art show or something where I made a phone call or something. I'm like, Caballero and a bunch of guys come in the park. You got, and they'll jump in the car and come.
Like
And-
on the
and
way.
That wouldn't happen if any of us were deciding that getting inebriated was a better route. None of that would have happened. And those are moments like, I mean, people would pay millions. I'm going to say millions of dollars to have the opportunity to be in the same breathing space as some of the greatest skateboarders on the planet. And it was a phone call, you know, private only. The people invited could be there. And you guys jumped in the car, drove up from Ohio, and got to experience that. If we didn't have sobriety, we wouldn't be able
That
to
was
do
God
things.
that day for me because I was at my uncle's funeral that day. I was laying in bed crying when Jeff called me. He's
Dang.
like, and I didn't even want to go. He's like, let's go. And I'm like, man, I don't know. He's like, dude, let's go. And I'm like, all right, you know.
Just,
And
I'll go
Christian
cry in the
Minnesota even
parking lot
prayed
at
with him.
Modern, but I'll go though. You know.
yeah. So it was there. It was a wonderful evening, but
Yeah,
if we
it
don't
was.
have, I always say it, if I don't have sobriety, I don't have anything. I don't have anything. It'll all go away as quick as it can. Any parting wisdom you got for us, Mr.
Yeah.
Schill?
So here's the deal: if anybody listening is thinking whether or not they are an alcoholic or needs to quit drinking, it's probably a good sign that you do.
Yeah, if you
And
think
if
you
you
need
think
to,
if you're
then you are.
thinking about it, and there's a lot of help out there, man. People like Gerald are available. I'm always available. He knows how to get a hold of me. And they say if you're bored in recovery, you're doing it wrong.
Right.
I mean, that's 100% true. You know, I accredit everything that I get to do today from God and recovery because I mean, I'm telling you guys, you heard my juvenile story. I was that guy, and now I get phone calls from guys like G-Man here that says, "Hey, Caballero, Novak, Hensley, and all these guys are going to be at Modern. Get up here." And like before I even knew I had permission from George, I'm almost at Toledo. You know what I mean?
That's the perks of him owning his own business too. Because if anything pops up, he's like, "Hey, let's go."
yeah.
And I'm like, "All right, cool. I don't have to work anymore, and I get to go have fun."
Yeah.
So, you know, and it's same when Gerald asked for something like this, you know, there's no questions, there's no thinking
Yeah.
about it.
We
'Cause
missed our
we're-
home group for this.
Yeah, tonight's our home group. This is our big meeting
Yeah.
that we make every week. But I will skip it if it has to do with recovery
Yeah.
or me speaking at an event or any of those things. So just if you're thinking about whether you have an issue or not, you probably do. So at least inquire about it and maybe get some good advice from Gerald, and he can put you in the right direction if you're in the Michigan area. And if you're in the Ohio area, you are always more than welcome to hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, and I will give you my phone number.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I was invited to a friend new to sobriety is chairing a meeting down in Toledo and asked if I would come down in a few weeks. So I'll let you guys know the details
Oh,
about
we'll be
that.
there.
Oh yeah.
And awesome dude, fired up, you know. And so it's pretty cool that he texted me last night. He's like, could you come down like in September? I'm like, just send me the date. Let me see what I can do. And it might be a Thursday night, but I'm looking forward to it. So we'll see if we can make that happen.
Go to
And for you
Cook's
guys,
DIY.
Huh?
Go to the DIY.
Yeah. Well, we always, skateboarding's everywhere. And so whenever we are doing other things, we try to find a local skateboard park and at least hit it up. And but, you know, you guys, hopefully you took some notes. Hopefully if this wasn't something that would be life-changing for you, I am certain you know somebody it would. Like, share, send them the link, and underneath in the description, you'll see there'll be some tools, some meeting finders for AA, NA, refuge recovery. There'll also be the proper spelling of everybody's name in case you're looking for any of us on social media. You got questions you want to ask about, private message any one of us, and we'll get back to you. It happens weekly for me. I probably get 3 to 5 messages a week about sobriety. And what's rad is when I don't feel I have all the tools, I can call Schill. I can call Jared and say, hey, my buddy's dealing with this. Is it cool if I give him your number? And not once has either one of them said no. So there's always help, and there is hope. There is hope. So with that, I want to say thank you guys, man. We're going to go ride our skateboards a little bit as soon as we're done here, but incredible. I'm sure we're going to do it again.
Oh, yeah.
And you guys are awesome. Thank you for making the drive up and being guests here on the drop-in. And thank you guys, man. We do this for you. And I hope you got everything you wanted to get out of it and more. Like I said, like, share, subscribe. We're going to be doing shows about sobriety for the next handful of episodes. So make sure to tune back in because each show is a different view. Like I said at the beginning of the show, it's not cookie cutter. There isn't one way that works. And if it's not working for you, maybe you went to a meeting and you said, that isn't for me, drop me a line. I'll give you like 5 other options that I know where you can find what works. And when you were a baby, when you were learning to walk and you fell down, what if your mom said, just not going to walk? We'll just leave him down there.
Yeah.
Just ain't going to walk.
That's pretty good.
No, that isn't what they said. They found ways. Maybe you had a little, you walked by the table or maybe you had the lawnmower and you could use that for stability. You found a way to walk. Think of your recovery that same way. So with that, I want to say thank you very much. You guys are awesome, man. I can't thank you enough. I got goosebumps on my whole body right now. That's Jared. This is Jeff. I am Gerald, and this is The Drop-In.